Nutrition. When we walk or ride a bicycle, we are using up energy. Even when we are not doing any apparent activity, energy is needed to maintain a state of order in our body. We also need materials from outside in order to grow, develop, synthesize protein and other substances needed in the body. This source of energy and materials is the food we eat. How do living things get their food? The general requirement for energy and materials is common in all organisms, but it is fulfilled in different ways. Some organisms use simple food material obtained from inorganic sources in the form of carbon dioxide and water. These organisms, the autotrophs, include green plants and some bacteria. Other organisms utilize complex substances. These substances have to be broken down into simpler ones before they can be used for the upkeep and growth of the body. To achieve this, organisms use biocatalysts called enzymes. Thus, the heterotroph's survival depends directly or indirectly on autotrophs. Heterotrophic organisms include animals and fungi. Autotrophic nutrition. Carbon and energy requirements of the autotrophic organisms are fulfilled by photosynthesis. It is the process by which autotrophs take in substances from the outside and convert them into stored forms of energy. This material is taken in the form of carbon dioxide and water, which is converted into carbohydrates in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Carbohydrates are utilized for providing energy to the plant. We will study how this takes place in the next section. The carbohydrates, which are not used immediately, are stored in the form of starch, which serves as the internal energy reserve to be used as and when required by the plant. A somewhat similar situation is seen in us, where some of the energy derived from the food we eat is stored in our body in the form of glycogen. CO2, carbon dioxide, plus H2O gives, in the presence of chlorophyll and sunlight, C6H12O6, that is glucose, plus oxygen plus water. Let's now see what actually happens during the process of photosynthesis. The following events occur during this process of photosynthesis. Number 1. Absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. Number 2. Conversion of light energy to chemical energy and splitting of water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. Number 3. Reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrates. These steps need not take place one after the other immediately. For example, desert plants take up carbon dioxide at night and prepare an intermediate which is acted upon by the energy absorbed by the chlorophyll during the day. Let's see how each of the components of the above reaction are necessary for photosynthesis. If you carefully observe a cross section of a leaf under the microscope, you will notice that some cells contain green dots. These green dots are cell organelles called chloroplasts, which contain chlorophyll. Let's do an activity which demonstrates that chlorophyll is essential for photosynthesis. Refer to activity number 1. Next, now let's study how the plant obtains carbon dioxide. In class 9th we had talked about stomata. These are tiny which are tiny pores present on the surface of the leaves. Massive amounts of gaseous exchange takes place in the leaves through these pores for the purpose of photosynthesis. But it is important to note here that exchange of gases occurs across the surface of stems, roots, and leaves as well. Since large amounts of water can also be lost through these stomata, the plant closes these pores when it does not need carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. The opening and closing of the pore is a function of the guard cells. The guard cells swell when water flows into them, causing stomatal pore to open. Similarly, the pore closes if the guard cells shrink by losing water. Refer to Activity 5.2. Based on the above two activities, we can design an experiment to demonstrate that sunlight is essential for photosynthesis. So far, we have talked about how autotrophs meet their energy requirements, but they also need other raw materials for building their body. Water used in photosynthesis is taken up from the soil by the roots in the terrestrial plants. Other materials like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, magnesium are taken up from the soil. Nitrogen is an essential element used in the synthesis of proteins and other compounds. This is taken up in the form of inorganic nitrates or nitrites, or it is taken up as organic compounds which have been prepared by bacteria from atmospheric nitrogen.